Thanks for tuning in to the Capital Connections podcast hosted by Kisher Capital. I'm your host, Eric Schlosser, current CEO and lead advisor of Kisher Capital. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Chris Hopkins. Chris, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about her business, Accordance Bookkeeping, and how she helps people with fractional CFO services, among other things. Before we jump into that, Chris, tell us just a little bit about yourself and your family.
Well, my name is Chris Hopkins, as you've said. I'm married. I've been with my husband for almost 29 years. We have 4 daughters who are all adults now, still live with us. So therefore, they still kind of keep us on our toes, but they're always going and moving and doing their thing. So kind of like in our somewhat empty nest stage. They're not gone, but we're here to kind of do our own thing, and kind of what's led me to this juncture in my life.
Yeah, excited to talk more about it. I know for us, we've got 2 little girls, so we're a little bit farther behind you, but excited to see our family grow. And I know you've got a wonderful family. I think you were telling me before they are traveling right now. Is that right?
A couple of them are, yes. They're out of state, traveling, sending pictures, some good, some just to aggravate me where they're at. And, I'm always about them keeping safe, but they like to do things to aggravate with that. So it's been fun, though. And I'm glad that they're able to do that and get out and, do things that I never was able to do at that age. So it's good.
Oh, no, I love it. So obviously, you've got a family. You've been married, met your husband a long time ago, been with him for 29 years now, which is incredible. And where you're currently at is you're leading Accordance Bookkeeping as managing partner. Talk to me just a little bit about Accordance Bookkeeping and some of the things that you do.
So it is a full charge bookkeeping service as well as fractional CFO services. So we kind of, like I said, do every day-to-day operations for small business owners and, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, owner-operated type businesses. It's besides the daily operations, because that can change depending on who the person is, as far as what the level of bookkeeping is. So I actually have experience in, payroll, as well as doing, additional things like expense reports, doing actual invoicing for people, doing some types of collections for them.
Yeah.
Some people do just like to do the, categorization and, reconciliations and call it a day. In a previous life, I was a CFO of a multi-entity organization. So when I started this business, I thought, what extra value can I give to other businesses? And that's where the fractional CFO came into play, because I was doing that for small businesses. We had startups going on. We had some that were already established businesses. So
yeah, we
were, I was like, what can I do to help businesses that are already out there that don't exactly have that resource yet, to be able to hire somebody on, full time. So with both services, even if you are a type of person has somebody in-house that handles your bookkeeping, but you don't have that next level, or that bookkeeper doesn't have maybe that skill set to do that CFO level, that's where, I can come in as well as that point. So it's not just we have a bookkeeper, we don't need anybody, or I handle it, I don't need any type of service. There's a couple different levels to it. So
no, I think that's really interesting. I mean, for me personally, you're aware of the title CFO and maybe some different things that can be involved with that type of role. But it's cool to hear you talk about not only fractional CFO services, but bookkeeping and some of the other things that you help with. Part of what I'm curious about is when you work with some, different organizations or companies that need your services, what do you think some of the most common problems they face are?
Well, again, depending on which level you're starting at. So some, it's either they've been handling it themselves and they think they maybe know what they're doing, but they're not quite sure. Some shove it in, and then tax time comes and the accountant's saying, okay, none of this is correct. Or they've gotten to the point where they want to grow, but, they need to be taken away from the day to day. And so we need, sometimes they need my service. They might have someone in-house. Again, like I said, sometimes if you're really small, maybe it's, family member that's doing it. And again, that family member is trying to help out with at least booking that day to day, but they don't know where to take that next step. They don't know where their cash actually stands, where, what kind of money they have left, what they've got coming up for the bills, and they don't have that ability to grow from that point because they don't actually know what's going on. So that's where that takes them into that next level. And even with my general bookkeeping, because of my background, I will always be looking at somebody's books in that CFO sense a little bit.
Sure.
To be able to, give them a heads up about, kind of what's going on. They don't always have to be at that CFO, level with it, but they'll always get that type of service with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really amazing perspective that you bring to what you do, right? Because regardless of, the level of help that someone needs or the level of service with your experience and background, you are bringing some of those different perspectives into what you do, right? So if you're, needing help with your bookkeeping or you're doing it all on your own, you should definitely talk to Chris. She does a great job. And not only that, she's going to bring that level of expertise into her service as well. But what I'm curious about next, because we're talking a little bit about what you do and some of the common problems that people face, who would be someone that likely would need your help, or who can you help, right? Because I can think of plenty of different businesses.
Sure. Sure. I get this question all the time, actually. So, I mean, every business needs the service. It's the level where they're at in their businesses, I should say even the level, because you might have a restaurant that could use your services. Maybe they've had someone in-house and they've quit and they, can't get anybody in, or they don't want to hire someone in. Maybe again, the manager maybe is handling it. They need the next level. So it goes from your solo business owner to, to your small business owners. To me, you're at that level until you get to that point where you've got full staff in-house handling these types of things. It's anybody in between. It's retail, your small businesses, your home-based businesses. Anybody, because everybody needs it. And everyone thinks that, I don't have, many transactions going on and I kind of handle it myself, but sometimes they're not even categorizing correctly and they might be losing out on some different tax structures and stuff. So anybody that is at that point where they just either A, don't know what they're doing, or B, they want to kind of, grow a little bit more, or they just need someone, needs that service in there, is kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's really helpful to know, because oftentimes, I could imagine that people would say, well, maybe I'm fine. Maybe I don't need the help. Realistically, a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, really love to do it themselves and they want to get into the weeds. But at a certain point, I think when you want to grow, that can be a hindrance as well.
And a lot of people, the solopreneurs, I just spoke to somebody recently, and he said, I'm handling on myself, and until I scale a little bit, more than then I will meet somebody. So we kind of just started the conversation. One of the things I did offer to him was either, if that's fine, if you want to handle the day-to-day, I can maybe come in and look at it once a month or quarterly. So you're not at that, late hour come tax time. And he was like, oh, okay. And, kind of what would that look like for me? So there's that level as well, too. So if you're still at that point where you're handling it yourself, I can absolutely, like I said, step in and just do a monthly review or even a quarterly review, depending on, what's needed, and make sure that you're right there for tax time. So, and then natural step in for when you do scale and need that everyday that person. So
yeah, no, I think it's great because, again, you can meet people where they're at and make sure that people are well taken care of, right? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can work with people depending on, their level of service need and kind of their season of life. I'm sure through your conversations and people you interact with, you hear a bunch of different maybe objections or misconceptions. What do you think are some common misconceptions about bookkeeping or fractional CFO services, other than I can do it all myself?
Right. There's that, and there's also the people with bookkeeping that it's minimized a little bit. It's such a clerical term to some people, so that I don't think people put that value on it that it actually has. That is as important as sales and revenue are to your business. This portion is just as important, because if you aren't doing things correctly, you're not filing your taxes on time, you don't have all the information you need in there, you get audited by the IRS, it shuts you down just as easily as not having any money coming through the door. So
yeah,
it's there's a misconception, I think, with that, and it could be experience. It could be either yes, I know what I'm doing, or past experience with other bookkeepers, and not talk down on, but sometimes it can be a clerical process to some people. That's where I think my service is different, and I'm not the only one out there that offers that service, but it's like I have that different level to me, that I am definitely looking at it in a little deeper way than just processing. I'm going to say, hey, you only have X amount coming up, coming in, and I see you have X amount going out.
Yeah.
Normal bookkeeping wouldn't necessarily maybe get to that level, but those types of things that I think would be additional help. So that's kind of where I really feel I get a lot of people, or they push it off. I don't need that right now. I don't need it right now because it's not at the end of the deal. I can handle it. At the end of the year, I'll put in that I spent $5,000 and I'll be good. But it's not always that way. So there's a little misperception with that. I think so. Yeah, it's a much needed thing, and it can get quickly out of control if you don't take care of it immediately. And I see that. And I see a lot of people with, cleanup. So where, again, they haven't filed taxes in years and they need their taxes done because they pushed it off. And then they got busy, which was great.
Which is good. Yeah.
But then when you're so far behind, it's kind of a hard, to do the catch up on it. So it's nice to have someone in play. And with my service, again, you don't have that cost of, in-house. You don't have that overhead of having that employee. It's extremely affordable, and you know that somebody's taking care of it, and it's kind of, off your plate.
Yeah, I think it's great to be able, again, to make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve, because I'm sure you've seen time and time and again, if you push it off to the 11th hour, all of a sudden, every night you're up till 2, 3 a.m. trying to get it done.
Exactly. And a lot of people, I think, sometimes they'll think, well, my accountant will handle it when they're filing my taxes. Well, that's the last thing the accountant wants to be doing when they're filing your taxes. They want to file your taxes because you're not the only one that they're handling, and it's a lot, and then they've got deadlines. So yeah, don't wait till the last minute. Keeping up with it, even on, like I said, a monthly basis is better than not doing it at all.
I think that's great. I think it's a really good thing to keep in mind. So if I am, a solopreneur, or, I have a retail business or restaurant business as well, and I'm interested in working with you, what does that look like?
So initial call would be a free consultation. It would be just like a discovery call, kind of wanting to see what processes you currently have in place, any type of, if you're using an accounting software, if you're using Excel, how you've been, handling things, how your business is formed, how you file your taxes, what your goals are, where do you want to get to? Is it looking that you just want to kind of, stay where you're kind of at? Are you looking to grow? Are you comfortable with that kind of thing? So that's kind of what we go through. And then from that point, how many banking accounts you have, credit card accounts, how many transactions we think you do a month, things like that. So we would kind of, go through that. And then after that, send out an engagement letter. And, if you sign up at that point with the engagement letter, then we would, at that point, we would do the onboarding and the system kind of set up. So, kind of, again, whether they've got already have an accounting system or not, we would get that set up, go through chart of accounts, do, what are, the apps that we'll be using as far as, the workflows and things like that. So that's where that would go. And then from there would be just your general monthly bookkeeping that would be handled. So again, categorizations, reconciliations, everything, kind of in between from that, to the end. You're going to close out a month saying you're good to move on to next month. And then at the end of that, we would send out, the typical reports. Either they can go in and print them themselves, or we can send them to them the P&L and the, balance sheet and the cash flow statement. And then if they chose to do that extra CFO level, then again, that's very customizable. So that would be whatever they're looking for. So we could do, cash flow analysis. We could do budgets, do the forecasting, do dashboards, things like that. So whatever that level looks like for them, then that would be in there as well, along with the sending out the monthly reports. And in either case, there would be some type of call that we would have as well. So
yeah,
small, shorter call for just your standard bookkeeping. And then if we had that additional CFO call, then we would kind of go through everything and really get a little bit deeper dive into what they have going on up to that point. And again, that can be monthly. The CFO services can be monthly or quarterly, however they want to look at it. So everything's customizable.
Yeah. And I think what's great too, if you're listening and anything she just said sounds like legal jargon, you need to work with her, right? Because she is on top of it and she's got a great process. Like you said, free consultation, ability to work monthly, do various calls depending on the level of service need. But if you're running your business, you love what you do, and you need help with your bookkeeping, CFO, you need to get in touch with Chris, because she's got a great process to be able to take care of that. I'm interested, obviously we're talking about CFO, fractional services, and we're talking about some things related to finance. Kisher Capital, we manage investment accounts and things of that nature. How did you end up connecting your finances kind of to your future, to where you're at now? How were you able to do that?
Well, we're always saving for a rainy day, I guess, is kind of, that's the thing. I don't think anybody's job when they have it is guaranteed, or you're going to, whatever it might be. So you're always, at least in my world and the way I always was kind of like, always preparing for that with something like this in the back of my head, right? I love working for someone else, but at the same token, maybe, it's nice to have your own thing. And this seemed like the next natural step for me, whether that was now, 2 years from now, 5 years ago, it was kind of always in the works to maybe, save up and have that potential, to be able to be able to afford, to get this up and off the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great to hear a little bit about, the way you got started as well, right? Saving up and being able to have resources for that, because it really shows that you love what you do. Right. I think something for me personally that's really important is if you're going to work with someone, that they love what they do. Right.
Well,
Because I think
absolutely.
it's very evident when you work with someone who does not like what they do, it's not a good experience
No,
all
no, no,
around.
that's absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know that if you would have asked me 20 years ago if I'd end up here.
Yeah.
This has been a natural flow in my life and my career, and everything I've kind of done has always been down this road. So it was natural for me to get back into it after staying home with my kids years ago.
Hmm.
But to say where I would have gotten here, I don't know that that I would have, but it's definitely led me here, and it's what makes me happy. It's where I'm comfortable with. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy helping people, grow their businesses, and that's kind of where I'm at. So it's an absolute truth to that.
Yeah. And again, like it's really cool to hear just kind of about your family background, 4 kids, knowing your husband for a long time. Now, again, launching Accordance Bookkeeping and helping people the way that you do. I mean, for us at Kisher Capital, we're really excited to see what you continue to do and how you serve the community. I know that you're in Illinois locally.
Yes.
Where do you currently work out of? Can you remind me?
Out of Algonquin.
Out of Algonquin.
Yes. So, best part about this is it all can be done virtually, so you don't have to be local. That's the great part of technology these days, and everything that I do and all the apps that I work with are all secured. Nothing's done over email. It's all done through apps that everybody upload and everything off that. So that's the extra added security to that as well.
I think that's great. Yeah. You work locally and online. Zoom makes so many things possible.
Yeah,
Right?
it
So, so it's great to see. Well, I want to thank you for joining the Capital Connections podcast. Thanks for making the drive out here.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Of
Thank you for
course.
talking to me. This has been great.
Yeah. No, always glad to connect, and it's great to have you on here. Before we kind of wrap up, is there anything you want to share with anyone who might be watching or listening?
Yes, I would share with you not only my information. No, I really want to say, I stress to people that I know that there's a lot of people out there that are either behind on their books, they haven't filed taxes. I just want to let you know you're not alone, and professional help is affordable. It won't break the bank. So if you need to reach out, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Like I said, free consultation, just even talk it all out, see where you're at, what is needed, and you can definitely give me a call anytime. Can be reached at 224-389-0805. You can go right to my website and make an appointment as well at www.accordancebookkeeping.com.
Wonderful. Chris, thank you again
Thank
for
you.
coming on. Really
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for listening to the Capital Connections podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how to connect your finances to your future, reach out to us today. You can go to kishercapital.com or reach out by email to info@kishercapital.com. Thank you. Advisory services offered through Kisher Capital, LLC, an investment advisor registered with the state of Illinois. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Kisher Capital, LLC, and its representatives are properly registered or exempt from registration. The information on this podcast is not intended as tax, accounting, or legal advice, nor is it an offer or solicitation to buy or sell, or as an endorsement of any company, security, fund, or other offering. Information provided should not be solely relied upon for decision making. Please consult your legal, tax, or accounting professional regarding your specific situation. Guest speakers are independent professionals and are not employees of Kisher Capital. We do not receive any compensation or referral fees from these individuals or firms. There is no obligation to engage their services, and clients are free to work with any provider of their choice. The information linked to any third-party guests on this podcast is strictly provided as a courtesy and convenience. When using any third-party information provided on this podcast, we make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided by our guests. The information on this podcast is provided as is, and without warranties either expressed or implied, and the information may or may not be free from error. Your use of the information provided is at your sole risk.